You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hi, beautiful. Welcome to today's episode. So I know on the Bright Life podcast, a lot of times we talk about how to create more of those positive moments. But what about the times when you're really struggling and you're really frustrated by a situation and you don't know what the point of having to go through something is? Today, I want to share one thing that really helps me in those moments in the hopes, of course, that it can help you as well. So what I've learned in my life is that whenever I'm going through something that requires a lot of learning, a lot of missteps, a lot of trials and figuring out, it's often the thing that one day I can look back on and be able to teach or help others with, or share the steps to get there, give them hope, inspire their journey. And whatever you're going through right now may be the thing that you one day can teach others as well, whether that is through a business you create, a book you write, a nonprofit that you start. There's some purpose in your story right now, no matter how frustrating and devastating it is, that I truly believe will one day be the hope for someone else. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily make your situation feel better. It's like, well, great, why do I have to be the one to go through this? But for me, at least, it's a little bit helpful to believe and trust that there's some bigger purpose to it, and it is what I have seen time and again in my life. So as an example, to jog your own mind for ways this may be true for your life, when I was in college, I really struggled with figuring out my relationship with food. Like so many women, we've all been taught and inundated with information around diet plans, and eating less leads to bigger results. And so I definitely grew up with some restriction mentality as a young adult, and just simply thought that that was the way to stay healthy, was to eat less and move more. And what that ended up doing was leading to all kinds of restriction and all or nothing dynamics with food. And pair that with college and the stress of, young adulthood and a relationship, and it led to some binge eating in college, simply, I believe, because I felt so restricted, and that was just an outlet to kind of make up for feeling like I couldn't eat things a lot of the time. Anyway, all that to say, one day I was able, through all those years of trial and error and taking classes and learning how to find my own balance with food, it actually led me to my first business, which was in wellness coaching, because I was so passionate about helping other women break this cycle and find a healthier dynamic with health. And, that eventually led to my second business, which was more of the writing side. So teaching through writing for wellness brands versus coaching all day, every day on it. And even now, I can look at some situations where I have this idea for my next book to be about visibility and taking up space and shining brighter. And I know that that call is on my heart because it's something that I've really worked through over the past few years and still very much find myself figuring out. But whenever I get frustrated by this thing of feeling shy, sharing my message, or I don't know, I think just thinking about it more than I imagine the average person thinks about it, I know that there's probably some bigger purpose in there of being able to one day help the women who feel like me and help people more authentically and boldly and confidently share their message. And this has just been true for any situation in my life. When I was younger, I had anxiety, and that led me to my passion for integrative wellness and figuring out how to have a whole body approach to health, where you you had your mental health and your mindset and your breathing as much as you had the things you pay attention to physically. And that wasn't really talked about that much 20 years ago, but it was something that I learned young. And so I've always brought that with me into my life, kind of making your spirit and soul and heart a part of the picture of health and your body. And so those are a few examples in my own life, but they're really meant to inspire you and yours. What is that thing that you're going through right now that may be so frustrating and you may just feel like you cannot see the steps quite yet through it? You are going to learn those steps. You are going to have a day on the other side of this where you have figured it out, where it is now the thing that you know the codes to, and you are going to inspire a lot of people with your story. You are going to give hope and encouragement to a lot of people who are in the situation you're in right now. So I know that doesn't make it better, but I do hope it makes it lighter to carry and to know that whatever you've gone through in your life becomes the thing that you can one day use to teach and inspire others with. There may be your book in there. It may be your podcast. It may be your great keynote speech. It may just be the conversation you have in a coffee shop with someone that changes their entire life or lightens their load because you deeply understand what they've gone through. And never underestimate the power of that to change someone's life. How often have you just been having a day and something that a barista says or the way that a stranger smiles to you or a compliment that you receive is enough to turn that entire day around and be like, okay, I can keep going. I've got this. Like, thank you for giving me that today. So you're going to be that for someone else. And so I hope this just encourages you today, and if it makes it easier and helps you think of it more like this process that you will get value out of one day, maybe just keep a journal of what you're feeling right now, or write down the lessons as you learn them so that you have them all in one place to remember later, to develop that book or podcast or keynote or simply conversations around it with other people. And at the very least, know that what you're going through is not in vain. For some reason, it's the way that this universe works, that we all go through things and then have this desire to use our experiences to teach and to help the next person. And so you're part of that bigger picture. And again, even though that doesn't minimize everything that you're going through, I hope it does just offer a little bit of hope and purpose in it. And I hope it encourages you today. So that's this week's message in helping you find the bright spots in maybe a dark season, and I truly hope that it helps. Thank you so much for listening in. If you love this episode, I have 2 things you are going to love. One is a free copywriter training full of 5 steps to build a profitable copywriting business as your own boss, no matter how much experience you're starting with. Copywriting is what took me from a 9-to-5 to freedom as my own boss, to travel, choose my schedule, replace my corporate income, and have time to work on creative projects like this podcast. And I'd love to give other women the same opportunity. Another, of course, is my book, Your Bright Life. You can find it on Amazon or Audible, where I narrate the audiobook. So it's kind of like a podcast in book form. All of these things are in the podcast show notes. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate you and your review so much, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.